Hello and welcome to another Collections Index web edition tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at image records in your Collection Index system. The system allows you to ingest images and link these with other records in your system. Most commonly, that will be linking images of your collections with their corresponding collections records. To access your image assets, you'll want to find the Assets section of your menu. And again, depending on what modules and extensions you have, what you see here will vary, but you will always see an images option here. And if you click on that, it will take you to your image records. Once you're at this page, it should look quite familiar if you're used to looking at other types of records in your system, with options to run quick searches into your image records, run advanced searches, looking at very specific fields with the image record and doing very powerful, very detailed searches. And also, instead of adding a new record button, we have an upload a batch of images button instead. I'm just going to do a blank search to bring all the image records back from the system. And here we go. And you can see the search summary is also laid out in the usual way, divided into different pages if you have a large search result, with the option to view them all. And again, options to view as a list or grid if you want a slightly more visual way of going through your image records, which might be quite handy given the context. You can see if we are in the list view, we've got a thumbnail image as a preview. We've got the system's record ID for these images. We have when the record was last updated. We have the asset reference for the image, which is taken from the file name. We have the type of image listed in this column. And just like with authority records, which we looked at recently, we've got a usage column, which tells us how many records in our system this image is being used on and what type they are. And then finally, the normal controls column, where we can view this image record, we can edit this image record, and note we can also add images to folders. If I click on these folder icons, note that untitled folder up here has climbed up to 5 records. And again, do check out our separate video on folders to understand how you can use these in your Collections Index system. Revisiting the top of this page, you'll notice that quick search defaults to a free text search, so you can simply run a word search across your image records. So if I type in blue, we're simply looking for the word blue if it appears anywhere in the record. But there's other options here too, so you can search for the asset reference if you happen to know it. So maybe because that's based on the file name, you might know what to search on there. So again, if we switch that to asset reference and type in an exact asset reference number, we can return an exact image. And this is a really useful one, object number. So if you're not sure on the asset reference, but you do know the accession number of the object that these images are connected to, you can type in that. There's one I memorized earlier. And then we've got 2 images coming up here, both of which are attached to the same object. And that seems evident from the fact that they both look the same. It's also worth noting that down at the bottom here, you have all the normal tools down at the bottom of your search that you'd expect with other records. So for example, ways to export the data here as CSV files, for example, running reports if you have reporting options, various folder options and batch editing options as well as fetching to other types of records. So all the things you'd usually expect to find at the bottom of your search. The advanced search tool works exactly the same with image records as it does for other records. So you can expect to see all the available fields in your image records here for you to search on. An example of quite a useful one is something like asset type. So I could say asset type is, and then I can find everything in my system, which is a JPEG, for example. And if I click search, there we go. We've got 162 JPEGs in the system. Now let's jump on and look at an individual image record and see what information we can find there. Once you are viewing an image, you'll notice they look and behave much like other types of records in the system too. And again, just as a reminder, remember you can always close the navigation menu if you want to go full screen. And when you're looking at these records, you'll see that just like other types, you've got your information down here on the left, so the different field names with their sort of information data listed next to them. And again, some of this appearing as links where they're controlled by terms and authorities and that sort of thing. And then over on the right, you'll see a preview of the image. If it's being used in your system, you'll see usage information. But what's really useful about these image records is you also get renditions. So you can upload one version of the image to your system. So you could upload a very large one if you wanted to, and then you can download different sized copies of your image using this renditions function. So if you just need a small version for social media or website or something, it's very easy to pop onto the system and just download a copy when you need it. And it saves you having lots of different copies of these images saved across your system. You can have a master copy of high quality here, ingested, ready to use. I've now returned to our starting images search page, and let's look at how we add images to the system. And it's very simple. You're going to click upload a batch of images, and you have a choice now. If you select choose files, you can select one or more images from a folder and ingest them into the system. If you pick choose a directory, this will allow you to just pick one folder and everything in that folder will be uploaded, depending on the scale and how kind of detailed you want your upload to be. Let's choose files on this occasion. And then, presuming this is the folder you want, if not, you'd navigate to the right destination. You can simply select what files you want to upload. Let's pick these three. And as soon as I hit open, we'll see some status bars as these ingest into the system. So suppose green bars will go up. And once they all turn green and we've got ticks for everything, the page will refresh. And now we can see the image records, the asset records we've just created. Note that the system has given each a new unique record ID, and note that the file name has turned into the asset reference. So this is a really key point. You do want to make sure that the file name for your image is something that's sensible and usable, because once you've uploaded it here, that asset reference is locked in. And the only way to change that would be to delete this image, delete this record, and re-upload with a different name. So it is important to get your file naming right, which is good practice anyway. So once you've uploaded images like this is a good time to edit them further. Perhaps you want to add copyright information or captions. So if I click on edit in the controls column, that will take me to the editing form for an image record. And this behaves just like the editing form you'll be used to with other records, with sections like this, full of fields that you can catalog and add data to the image record. The fields you see here will depend on the various modules and extensions you have on your system. My system here has our digital asset management system, CollectionsIndex, installed, so I have a whole wealth of fields to record my images. But if you don't have that, you can still record important pieces of information like copyright and captions. However, I'm going to go back to my search results. So I've come back to my search results because the system has generated this list of images I've recently uploaded. And we could edit these one by one, but actually while they're all together in a search result, it's a perfect chance to run a batch edit. So if all these images, for example, have the same copyright information, we can get that into their records really quickly. So if we scroll down to the bottom to where the usual options lie, we can see the batch edit button. And if we click on this, we can now batch edit, and let's batch edit the rights information for these images. And we can add some rights information here. So it's a copyright holder. And we'll just add anything in for the time being. Let's say the copyright holder is the Smith Brothers. And that's 3 records updated with new copyright information. And if I pop onto view, we can see rights is now recorded here. So I've just run another image search in my system. In fact, I've searched for all my images. So if I'm looking at a list now, and at the top we can see some of those recent uploads we just put in. And I just wanted to show you another really useful batch tool, which is specifically useful in the case of images. So you can download copies of your entire search result if you want to, or you can select individuals like this. Whichever way you choose, so once you've selected the images you want, you'll notice that down here at the bottom, there's download selected assets. And this is just like the renditions feature we saw for individual image records. But instead of downloading a different size copy of one image, we're going to download a different size copy of multiple images. So if we click on this, we can choose the quality of the image, the size of the image, so maybe just 600 pixel JPEG. We can choose how the files are named. Are they going to be named by the reference number, a sequential counter, or the original file name? And it's up to you for your preference. Once you're ready, click OK, and your browser will download a zip folder containing the renditions you've just specified. So really easy to batch download assets and get them out of your system for a range of different reasons. So finally, let's remind ourselves how we actually link images to other records in your system. I'm going to use archives as an example. If we edit an archive record, and you'll see in most records, there'll be a section called images, and this is where you can link your collections record to an image in your system. So if we open up the images section, we'll see this is a repeating field, so we can add multiple images, of course. So we're going to click add to add one occurrence to this field, and now in this image field here, we can click browse. And this will show us all the images in the system. We can go through if you want page by page to try and find the image. Probably not the most useful thing to do. Note that recently uploaded images do appear at the top here. So if you've recently uploaded your collections image and you then very quickly after that make the collections record, the image should be quite handy at the top of this list. You can also filter a little bit by clicking recent, and that will help sort of filter recent or not recent images if you do a search. And you can, like I say, search here using things like the asset reference number or the system ID if you know it. But for now, once you've found an image, let's click one here that could be linked to this record. Press OK, and that image is now linked in to our collections record. And note that there is an image type field where you can set the type for your image. So let's say this is the primary image for this collections record, and other images maybe we'd set as secondary. And now if we press save our changes and view the record, we can see that image is now attached to our collections record. It's appearing here with the asset reference number as a link. And as ever, if we click that link, we can go back and see the image record. So everything is now connected up and in our system. That's about it for this tutorial. Do note that if you have the extended media module or our CollectionsIndex digital asset management system module, you can also ingest and link different file types like audio, video, and documents to your system, as well as images. But it is useful to know that most of the processes we've seen today work for those other file types too. As ever, if you have any questions about images in your system, do reach out and get in touch. And if you have any requests for new tutorials, do let us know. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Thank you.